Hi guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach to Nerd, and I'm here with my good friend Eloy from the channel The Turnout. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. I will have the link down in the description below. And we are here to talk about the Netflix original movie based on the Broadway musical, The Prom, or Prom, basically. So Eloy, what did you think of the movie, and can you break down what the actual plot is?
Sure. Well, first off, hey everybody. Eloy from the Turnout. A lot of fun. Thank you, Maria, for having me back. I always have fun talking with you. Uh, so the prom, which is weird because it is the prom if you look everywhere, but it's prom really. But essentially, it's kind of this backwater town that doesn't like gay people and doesn't want this girl to have a prom. And I was like, well, first, we'll get into opinions later. But anyway, so some of these kind of, I guess, quote unquote, washed up kind of Broadway actors see this as an opportunity to kind of step in and get some notoriety for helping a cause. And along the way, they mess up and they learn lessons, and there's fun songs. And, it's your average, like, kind of feel good movie at the end. But I think that honestly, I was blown away. It was a kind of a movie that I watched on accident because my wife was watching it and I happened to be in the room. So, and then, about 15 minutes in, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to actually sit down and watch this now. I had no plans on watching it. So thank you to my wife for making me watch this.
We thank her very much because it was a very good movie. So she did a good justice for you. But that's what spouses are for.
Yes.
All right. All right. So, like you said, this is basically a town, or really, it almost feels like the whole state of Indiana.
Yeah.
Like everybody in Indiana apparently hates gay people. But what I loved about this is that the antagonist is the head of the PTA, and she is played, her name is Mrs. Green, and she's played by Kerry Washington. And I just, that woman is gorgeous. I loved her from Scandal. I loved her from Little Fires Everywhere. Two drastically different characters. And so this character is somewhere in the middle. And I really love the energy that she brought into being this homophobic. But it was like she was flirting out homophobia, but she was doing it in a very subtle but very passive aggressive and classy way, all at the same time. I'm like, okay, so very good casting, which is probably good and bad to say, for Mrs. Green in this movie.
I was honestly surprised. I had heard that Kerry Washington was in the movie, and the homophobic PTA mom was not the role that I envisioned her in.
I know.
And mostly because, as stereotypically, you would imagine an affluent white woman in that role. So to make it a black woman, actually, it brings different kind of connotations to a lot of things.
It does.
And at least the way that I enjoyed the movie, because it did. It's weird to say that bucked, expectations, but it kind of did. Just because Hollywood would cast that a certain way, and it wasn't cast that way.
Yeah, but I do like that it is more realistic because unfortunately homophobia is in every religion, race.
It's in every,
whatever,
yes.
so it's everywhere. But I mean, I haven't seen the Broadway rendition, so I don't know what the original cast looked like when they performed. And if it's a touring company, they probably have multiple actors. For all we know, this could have been a completely multiracial cast. I have no reference because I haven't seen the Broadway rendition.
I haven't seen it either.
But from what we're going for the Netflix version, I was very surprised and very excited that Kerry Washington was able to pull off somebody that's kind of evil, and she did and it was like a campy evil. I don't even know how to explain it, but like, it wasn't like, oh, I just want to take her out and just smack the crap out of her. It was more like, this woman's got balls. But
it was the smacking thing a little bit for me.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm probably desensitized. I'm in the LGBT community, so I'm kind of, at this point, I'm so used to things. So it's just like so let's talk about our four main actors from Broadway.
Yes.
And we had Meryl Streep playing Dee Dee Allen. We had James Corden playing Barry Glickman. Nicole Kidman is Angie Dickinson. And then we had Andrew Reynolds, I hope I'm not butchering that, as Trent Oliver, who is effing adorable in this movie.
Yes.
So I love the fact that we had them come in because they were trying to overcome their narcissism. But it almost felt to me like they focused a lot more on the actors than they did on our two leads, I guess. And I guess they're not really leads,
No.
but the couple, the young lesbian couple,
Yeah.
Alyssa Green, and of course the main Emma Nolan is who they were coming to help. They had so little screen time. So if I had to change anything about this movie, it would be that we focused a tiny bit more on Alyssa and Emma and a little bit less on Dee Dee and Principal Tom Hawkins, even though they were adorable.
They were kind of adorable.
They were. I love. Look, I am a huge Key and Peele fan. I am.
Yes.
I am a huge Key and Peele fan. So I love me some Keegan Michael Key. But we did focus a lot more on them than we did on the actual couple that they were trying to help. Especially,
I agree with that. I am also a huge Key and Peele fan. That was actually one of the reasons I was maybe going to watch the movie. I was like, oh, well, Keegan, like, he doesn't pick bad roles. Everything I've seen him in has been good.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see him with kind of all of these. I mean, the people who they got to be the Broadway stars are kind of powerhouses in themselves. To have that number of kind of that star quality in the movie, it would have been weird, I think, to not focus on them and focus on the two kind of fresh, new, introducing, brand new actresses. They were both good as well. But I think also that the story was not necessarily about Emma and Alyssa. It was about these Broadway people ransacking Emma's life, essentially. And
see, that's what I wanted to ask you, Eloy. I'm going to cut you off, but is that what the premise? Again, I have not seen the Broadway musical, but this is advertised as an LGBT, progressive coming out, accepting yourself, pretty much everything we're trying to go for in 2020, 2021 and beyond.
Right.
That type of demographic. So,
well, and it is that too, because both James Corden and Andrew Reynolds, they play gay characters. So even if you divorce it from, the young lesbian couple, two of the main characters are still gay, and they are also kind of fighting their own internal battles as well. So it is, I mean, so even it's still there. But I get what you're saying, though, that it could have been focused a little bit more. I think that the thing that they focused on the most, and this was weird for me because I was watching it with my wife, and I think, what is it? Which one is Nicole Kidman? Angie
Dickinson.
So when Angie comes in, the very first shot is on her butt, and it's and her hips swaying side to side. And the first thing, I didn't even know Nicole Kidman was in this movie. But that was the first time that you see this character. And I turned over to my wife and I said, who is that? She has no butt. She has no hips to be trying to pull off this shot on this lady. And then it was Nicole Kidman. And I'm just like, yeah, she's like a stick. Like you can't do the voluptuous, boom, 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 boom. But like, while she can't pull that off. She's a great actress. She can play many roles, but that butt doesn't act like it's got.
Should have given her a butt pack, is what you're saying.
She needed a butt pack or a hip pack or something. I'm sure they had some drag queens on set that could have probably lent her something.
Well, to be fair, though, look at her role. It wasn't that large for a powerhouse. She did not have a lot to do in this movie. She was kind of the supporting character, the one that stuck behind and bonded a little bit with Emma and talked about her dreams of not being a chorus girl anymore and becoming, the lead in the chorus line, that was her role. So, which is very strange, because if you're going to focus on these people that come from Broadway, she's part of that crew, and she seemed to have the least amount to do out of all of them, which is surprising.
It's weird because I actually enjoyed Angie and Trent more than and Barry, and I think it's because they weren't so in everybody's face constantly, and what they did was a lot of emotional connection and a lot of teaching good lessons, like that was like, so they both, even though they had lesser roles, were their roles, I feel, were more impactful.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, yeah, they were what I like to call the supported characters that everyone wishes to ship or everyone wishes was in their lives. That's normally what we do. We don't go for the leads, we go for the supporting characters. We like the
Yeah.
underdogs. So yeah, I do agree with that. But I just thought it was interesting because I saw the names on the cast and I'm like, I know Nicole Kidman's won an Academy Award or Golden Globe. Of course, Meryl Streep's won multiple, awards on every variety because it's Meryl freaking Streep. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Nicole Kidman did not have as much to do in this movie, so that kind of stumped me a little bit.
You
But
ain't wrong. You ain't
yeah,
wrong.
I'll try. um, Now the musical numbers in this were effing cool.
Yeah.
Now I had no experience. It's not like when Hamilton came out. When I went to see Hamilton, I'd already had some of the songs in my head because I YouTubed
Yeah.
it, so I already knew going in how cool the musical would be. I had no idea that I would enjoy these songs as much as I did, especially Trent's Love Thy Neighbor. That entire
Yes.
musical number was effing hilarious. I actually wish somebody had gone to my mall, which ironically looked like the mall they were in, and just went up and down those stores so by Sephora and all the places he went that I was calling out, singing Love Thy Neighbor too. And I live in the South, so that tells you.
Yeah, it looked like my mall too. So I think that just means that like all malls look like kind of the same.
They really do. I don't know if it's the same, well, it's probably like the Target thing. Everyone has the same, floor plans. They all the same,
Yeah.
Contractors. But I loved Trent's character. And I love how effortlessly he was singing Love Thy Neighbor and then saying stuff like, oh, your mother got divorced. Well, we'll have to stone her. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that song specifically is where a lot of Ryan Murphy's kind of charm comes out. For those who don't know, Ryan Murphy is the guy behind Glee, which is why this movie feels a lot like Glee,
It does.
where there are these kind of serious moments happening, but it's all within a world that is just full of camp and musical numbers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, and that song, I think specifically is that one and probably the It's Not About Me song. Those were probably the two funniest songs. The Not About Me is the one where, at the PTA meeting that they come in and they sing this big song about, the girl. What's her name again? But it's not about me though. I really enjoyed that song and Love Thy Neighbor, which kind of tells you that I like funnier songs. It's funny though, because I didn't come into this knowing any of the songs, but two of the songs stood out to me as pretty big kind of copycat numbers. Zaz, obviously, very much, and All That Jazz. It very much from Chicago, which is the musical that the character Angie is from. So it makes sense that her song is similar to that. But Dance With You, which is a really nice number, is basically just defying gravity with a slightly different melody. Well, I mean, it's not exactly the same song. It uses the same chord progression and stuff, but it sounds so similar that I was just watching it. And I'm just like, they're just sing Defying Gravity. I'm sure they could pull it off. like it was so reminiscent of that song. That's from Wicked, obviously.
Yeah, I've seen Wicked, and I think you're right. But I always get amazed by Prom in general in these movies because I don't know about your prom. My prom is under budget, so we didn't have people like choreographing dancing when I came in. Like, I'm like, did we have rehearsal for this? I mean, what is happening? Everybody's just, and that's literally. I mean, I've seen so many movies like She's All That, Drive Me Crazy, where everybody's just kind of like on the dance floor doing their thing, and I'm like, was there some meeting we missed? I mean, I know I'm older, but I mean, are we just not cool? I don't get it. Like, prom is on point. Like, I enjoyed prom. Like,
yeah.
But no, so
I didn't go to my prom actually. I didn't like the people at my school that much to go and spend extracurricular time with them.
I went to a performing arts school, so unfortunately.
Oh, well, that makes sense. I love that.
Which makes it sadder that we didn't have anything choreographed. I'm just putting that out there.
True.
All right, so let's talk about James Corden as Barry. So
okay.
A lot of people that I've seen talk about in posts, not reviews, but like Twitter, Instagram, said that they would have loved to have had Titus from the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt play Barry, which I could see. I could actually see Titus in this role, but I don't think James Corden did a bad job on this. I actually enjoyed Barry in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, I think that he did an amazing job. And honestly, it was weird because I was watching it and I'm like, when we watched Cats, did he sing this good? Because he sounded really good in Prom, and I remember watching Cats, and I'm like, why did they get him? He does not sing good, apparently, but apparently he does sing good.
Well, he was
I
in
mean,
Into the Woods too, wasn't he?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
think I
in
saw
Into
that
the
one.
Woods.
All right, I didn't see that one.
Okay, yeah, he
Um,
sings in that. He actually has a very good voice.
Okay, no, he's got a wonderful voice. Apparently, that's what I
Yeah.
learned from Prom. But no, I mean, Titus Andromedon, which is not his real name, right? He's his act his that's his character on Kimmy Schmidt. His
Yeah,
real
well,
name is Titus, but it's
his first name is
Andromedon is not
Titus.
his last name.
I can't remember his last name, but no, Titus is his first name. Yeah.
It is his first name, yeah.
But I
I
cannot
do like him though. I like him a
remember
lot.
his last
Um,
name, but I will
I
find it.
think I think possibly they were going for a character that wasn't as overtly like outwardly, this is might get us in trouble, gay acting, like, because Titus is very, he wears it very proudly, talks with the high-pitched voice and all that stuff. And I believe that James Corden's character, Barry, so I believe Barry, though, was supposed to be kind of one of those characters that you wouldn't suspect that he was, and then he came out, and then all of a sudden that's when, like, he had to leave his family and all that stuff because he knew what the reaction was going to be. If you had someone like Titus in that role, then he would say, I'm gay, and they would be like, yeah, we know, because that's how you act like that all the time. Like we could guess, like, it's okay, right? So I think that might be the reasoning behind that role, and or maybe Titus was busy, like, who knows? Like,
Yeah, it's Titus Burgess,
Burgess.
Burgees, or
Yes.
ESS. So I think it's Burgess or Burgess.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's
if
Burgess.
it's fancy.
Yeah.
But I kind of see Barry both ways. So Barry, because of what happened with his parents, and him not being accepted and them wanting to send him to, basically, they say therapy. I heard conversion therapy. That's literally what I heard when they were saying that. That he was very proud to be out. So I could see Titus in this role. And to be fair, I've never seen Titus in anything other than Kimmy Schmidt. So I don't know what he's like. I mean, I've seen him in a few commercials, but again, that's a play off of his character. So I don't know how he is. I know
what
he's
I have
Broadway.
learned. What I've learned from watching him in other things, because I've watched him in 2 other things, if I recall, that is just him, and that's just who he is, and that's how all his characters will be for the span of time as we can know it.
I would love to see, because I mean, Kerry Washington shocked me, so I think Titus probably has something in there. But I was like, and I think he was in The Lion King, so he would have had to have been a little bit different in The Lion King. But yeah,
he was in Cats too. If you recall the last season of Kimmy Schmidt, he was also in Cats.
Yes, he was. And Cats is an underground society that steals things.
Exactly.
They're shoplifters. But which I absolutely love, by the way. I love Kimmy Schmidt. I loved it. I love the movie.
That whole show is so amazing.
Yeah, the movie is pretty cool. The one where you can choose your own adventures was pretty cool.
I did a review of that because it was so fun. I did it like 4 times because I wanted to see all of the different
Yeah, we were sitting here doing it at home. I was like, let's just change it up, and like, oh, we killed the baby.
One of my favorites, and this is obviously tangent, but one of my favorite ones was the 3rd time I did it. I went back and I chose something that was the same as one that I knew was going to fail. And then Titus came on and was just like, that didn't work last time. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, okay, that's fair. Thank you for recording that. I love that.
I like the one where you could choose to either eat the food, imaginary food, or go help Kimmy. And if you eat the food, then I think somebody else, it's not even somebody you know, it's one of the people that work on the set. I want to say it's the wardrobe lady, comes on there and she's like, well, thanks, like my life didn't suck enough.
No, I loved it. I loved it.
I love that movie.
Was good. But yeah, sorry, tangent. Yes.
Yeah, we get on that. Well, we talked about Titus, so of course we
all love Titus here. I love Titus.
All right.
And like I said, I think he might just be he might just be more outwardly presenting than I think the character was supposed to be. Whether the character is proud to be gay or not, it's a matter of where he also grew up, right? So It was that
Yeah,
sort of
it
thing.
really, and like that's the thing about being out, gay, lesbian, queer, whatever you
Yeah.
identify as. It sometimes when somebody's so repressed, they become flamboyant with it.
Yes.
And where Barry was, I think he was 15 when he left home,
Right.
and he was terrified, and then he had to reinvent himself. But you have to add this in. This is a stereotype, but in my experience being in theater, it is somewhat true. And I'm saying this as an LGBT member. Sometimes that flamboyancy is a theater thing, and
Yes.
Barry is a Broadway actor. So I could literally see Barry being that flamboyant. I think that to
I could see
me
that.
had some realism in it.
What I will also say is that I have a few gay friends and I can hang out with them and it is, like they're just like, yeah, they're just talk with me and it's regular. But if one of their gay friends is also there, they pitch it up. Kind of like I have
Yeah.
a on off switch for talking black. They obviously have kind of a gay switch as well. That they just they'll be like, yeah, man, it's totally cool. Oh, girl, like they just like it's like a flip. They can just switch it and it's just bam, and they can just go that direction.
Well, Eli, I would just like to say that I am impressed as a half black individual that you can beat me in sounding black. That is both sad and amazing in this conversation because I claim my blackness, but apparently you got the skill, so it's
Oh,
fine.
you have to have the dial. I can turn it off too.
Got it. It's fire. All right, so let's talk about Keegan Michael Key.
Yes.
As Principal Tom Hawkins, who is a huge Dee Allen fan in this movie. Yep. Now I don't. What's the age difference? I wonder.
Honestly, I mean, I think it's considerable. I think it's at least 15 years. But
Okay.
also, I kind of liked it. I am not one of these people who is all about age. Like unless we're talking young people, then it's like age kind of factors in. But like
Yeah.
if you're both adults, do what you're gonna do. I kind of thought it was a little bit adorable. And hey,
I
like
mean, I've dated someone I was married to someone 8 years younger than me, and I've dated someone 10 years younger than me, but I don't look older. So, the older ones look at me and they're like, no.
Yeah.
And now I think me and my spouse are 3.5 years apart. I'm 3.5 years older.
It's
So,
weird though with Meryl Streep though, is like I've always kind of thought that her look was older even when she was younger.
yeah, she had a mature,
So now,
matronly type face to
yeah.
me. Yeah.
So like now she's almost kind of aged into her look and she looks great. So I mean, hey, go for it, Keegan. Like, bam,
Well, yeah, and I look at it like I think some people were like questioning, oh, they made Dee Dee so much older, and again, that could have been how it was in the musical. So I mean,
True.
that could be people that hadn't seen the Broadway rendition like me, and then just got upset. But I loved that Keegan's character, that Principal Tom Hawkins, was more mature than Dee Allen. So she was older, but he acted older than her, more mature, more stable, and she's like all over the place, like it's not about me. Like, I think it was cute.
I think that comes from, I mean, he's written as the principal as well. I mean, and that's kind of a lot of TV shows and stuff like to demonize principals and whatnot and make them seem like they're silly, but you don't become a principal unless you are responsible, because you are now responsible for a whole school and all the students and all the teachers. Like there's just baked in responsibility there. Even more so than just teacher, because he could have just been like the teacher and it would not have been required that he's as responsible as he needs to be the principal. So that's just my take. Like I've always been one of those people who I always kind of respect, principals, presidents, things like there are positions that you are supposed to have a certain level of knowledge and caring and all that stuff to be in. So principal for me is like, so for me that baked it in. I was just like, yeah, obviously he's responsible because he's a principal, and he's already fighting these fights and fighting for Emma to have the prom and all that stuff. So he was already on the side of good. So as long basically as I think he was kind of our stand-in, like there's always a character that you're experiencing the movie through as a viewer. I feel like that's what he's supposed to be, because he's fighting for Emma, and then over here seeing these weird Broadway people coming in. But we also he also likes them because he's into the music and stuff. So like he's our stand-in.
He's also a Dee Dee Allen super fan. He has
Right.
gone to see, that was literally his vacation when he was not working. He's either listening to her music or going off to see her shows, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Which she thought was interesting. I love how he took her to the Applebee's. What was it? but like he's such a down to earth character, and I love that Dee Dee Allen is like, her head is so far in the clouds, it's ridiculous, and he just kind of pulls her down. So
I liked too that also fought against expectations, because she was like, oh, I'm surprised that you know all of my work and that you're straight. And he's just like, well, yeah,
town
like music too,
yeah. Yeah. But and that segues into cancel culture, though. So not with them specifically, but when Principal Tom Hawkins is defending Emma's right to have a prom, and then you have Mrs. Green, announcing, oh no, we have a certain lifestyle and a belief system here. Since that went viral on the interwebs, it's interesting that they did not have a cancel culture response, because it's happening across the board, and this is set in present time. Like, as far as I know, this is 2020 when this movie is. It's
kind of set in present time, but you can tell that it was written at a different time in history.
Yeah,
it was. I don't know when it was, but I just know that it's definitely not reflecting today. It's more reflecting kind of more like early 2000s, maybe early to mid 2000s.
Definitely pre-Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. It fits perfectly if you are not thinking it is in 2020, which is how I interpreted it. I didn't interpret it as being set in 2020.
See, and I didn't at first until we started seeing Emma online, performing, and then her getting all the followers. I'm like, okay, now you're bringing it home that this is today, which is interesting because, again, with the news from that town, I live in Memphis, Tennessee. So anything that happens here, especially if it's big, it's on the internet. People are talking about it. We have a population of 680,000 people, but yet bigger cities and bigger states are talking about Memphis. So it's weird that we have this girl who basically cannot have a prom in Indiana, and the linchpin is Mrs. Green, and she's being very problematic and very vocal, not hiding any of this stuff. And it's not like, this school is evil. That woman's evil. Let's troll her. Cancel culture. So it's interesting. I did think it's interesting that wasn't something they thought about or incorporated.
So I just looked it up, and actually 2016 was when it premiered, but I still feel like it was probably written earlier than that.
To reflect, and to be fair, with the Broadway version, they may not have incorporated the internet. Right. Instagram, and any of that stuff. So this is so if we're talking about just the Netflix version, it's really
like, to me, it feels like I watched a lot of Queer as Folk, and it felt like this storyline would be something in Queer as Folk. And if you remember, Queer as Folk was like 2000, like it was older. Like so it was much older. So it seems weird that same mentality would be still around in 2016. But I also don't live in Indiana. So
true. That is true.
There.
That is true. That is very true. And I need to see if the city that they live in is actually real, because I'm not sure if it's made up or if it's a real place. All right. So
I think the biggest thing for me was I'm going to move on to the next character, and that's going to be Kerry Washington for some reason.
That's what I was going to move on to. So we're right on track.
Well, no. So my biggest gripe with Kerry Washington, I think we both already discussed how much we love her, and she's wonderful. And it's not an issue with her; it's an issue with her character and how easily she's forgiven for how terrible she was.
Yeah.
And how easily she came around.
Yeah. She accepted, it's my daughter. So now everything I believe is now changed automatically. And I had time to get this dress.
Well, in fairness, that is kind of how it works with a lot of conservatives, like a lot of Republicans. They'll be very anti something until it affects their life. and then they're for it. Like Dick Cheney is like the biggest, most popular example. He was anti-gay and all of that stuff until his daughter came out as gay, and then he's just like, hey guys, we should be nice to gay people.
Yeah,
And
I've seen that happen
like,
too. Well, it
it's
either goes
weird.
extremist. You either go all the way for it or you disown them. So it's that there's no in between. It's only
Right.
for and against. So I do agree with that.
But I
Um,
think for me, I think, I mean, even if they were like, oh, she didn't come, but maybe there was like an epilogue scene with her and her mom coming to, coming to terms or something, I think I might have accepted that. Or even if there was a scene before the prom of them actually sitting down and having a discussion, and
yes,
talking, but
absolutely. Well,
just
okay,
going
so then,
straight
Eloy,
to that, I was
I
like,
have a question for you, not to cut you off, just so you don't get off that trail.
yeah,
When Alyssa came to prom, she was dressed. She had her hair
yeah.
done and her where did she go to? Did she go home to get changed? Because that's where her clothes are. You see what I'm saying? How did they not run
Yeah.
into each other at
Yeah.
home?
Well, and that's the thing, right? So as a screenwriter, like, because like I do this, right? It's like I'm watching it and I'm just like, there are scenes missing here for me to make sense of this. It could have been that she went home to talk with her mom, but her mom wasn't there. Maybe she was out driving in anger, because of the knowledge that she just there's a lot of reasons why. But you're right. If it all takes place off screen, we as the viewers are left wondering what happened.
Yep.
Like, how did we get to this point? So I think that covered everything with Alyssa and her mom. There needed to be something on screen for us to see, and not, I know last time that we saw each other, you were yelling at me and saying all this anti-gay stuff, and now you're completely okay with it a day later. That's weird. That's
Yeah,
weird,
that
is
is
all I
really
can
weird.
say.
Yeah, I agree. And just a disclaimer, we like this movie, but we have to just call out tiny little things that are a little bit confusing because they do not make
Nobody
sense.
gets YouTube views by saying they love things
True.
all the time.
That's true.
You have to critique things.
You
People
have to. You
people
have to be,
click
and you
for
have to
the
be fair and
negativity.
honest. Yeah, be fair and honest over it. Well, let's another nitpick that I have, and this is a nitpick back to Emma and Alyssa. So
Mhm.
they were together for, was it 2 years? She said, I thought 1 year, two
I
years.
think I missed that. If it's 2 years, that's a long
It
time.
was a year
Jeez.
or 2 years when Emma, because they asked how
Okay.
long she had been with her girlfriend, but we never understood how they got together, how they knew each other was gay. None of that came out. We know that Emma came out to her parents and they disowned her, and that's why she ended up living with Grandma B. But we
Right.
don't know how, like, as somebody who went to school and has always felt the way I felt, loved both genders, never had a problem with it. I went to school in the 90s. So, I could not just look across the room and thinking, yeah, I'm going to talk to her because I'm sure
Yeah.
she's like me. How do you do that? Especially with somebody whose
Yeah.
mother is the head of the PTA who is blatantly homophobic. Why would you
Yeah.
take that risk? How did you come together? Who made it? I would have loved to have some exposition or backstory on this couple.
I
And
would
I
agree
think
with
that would have
that.
been awesome.
I think it's safe to do that stuff off screen, but what they could have done was, while they were singing Dance with Me, instead of having a bunch of shots, reverse shots of them singing the song, they could have had a flashback during that to
Yeah.
maybe the first time they danced together and when they met, or something like that, to kind of help establish those things and answer those questions.
Yeah.
I think, I still feel though, I think that is a question that would be a fun to have and not necessarily a must have for the story. Unlike with Alyssa's mom, like, that just didn't make any sense at the end,
No.
and left a lot of negative questions, whereas this is more a positive question, like, ooh, I want to know more,
Yeah, and see, the
so
reason I would have loved to have had a little bit more exposition is because of the way Alyssa said, it's not easy being Alyssa Green. I have to be perfect, perfect
mm,
grades, perfect hair, perfect, clubs, whatever. And then your daddy will come home. So that she's
yeah,
had this perfection drilled into her head. So why would she take the chance in doing something that she hasn't even accepted technically fully herself, and
right,
being non-perfect and getting caught by her mother, to be with this person. So I would love
yeah,
to know how that came about. I think that even if it was just when Emma was talking to Barry and Barry said, oh, how long have you been together? Oh, we met in the library. At first we thought we were
yeah,
just friends, but then I felt an attraction and I was brave and I told her, and she actually said she felt the same, and she didn't run off screaming. And then we've been together ever since. It could have been something literally necessarily that quick.
I feel
But
I feel like I feel like that is definitely an easy way to have done that. But I also think that like in that kind of situation, it didn't seem like, and maybe it's because most of the movie takes place after she came out, but it didn't seem like they even really hung out all that much. They ran in different social circles. One was a
yeah, like Emma
cheerleader.
didn't have a social circle.
Right. So like where did they even find the opportunity to meet and even learn about each other besides just knowing that person at school? And obviously, they're not hanging out outside of school.
Yeah.
So,
That's
you
what it
know,
was a conundrum to me. I'm like,
yeah,
where did your paths cross to form this relationship? Because
you are asking a lot of valid questions.
it's
A lot of valid questions, and these would have been great to know. And these are the kinds of things that we could have learned if maybe there were only 3 Broadway stars that came to help Emma. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I agree with that. I agree with that. There was a little Easter egg for me as a Power Rangers fan. Nico Greetham from Ninja Steel played Nick. He was the first blonde of high schooler who did the
Okay.
promposal, and I think he is the one that talked about his parents being divorced in the
Okay, that guy.
Love Thy Neighbor. Yeah, so I was like geeking out. I'm like, yay, he's getting work after Power Rangers. Like,
I did not recognize him at all. I think the biggest one to me, and I didn't even realize it until I was reading over the notes while we've been recording right here, but Tracy Ullman played Barry's mom. I was like,
yeah,
I was
she
like,
looked
that's Tracy
familiar. I
Ullman?
didn't
I'm like,
realize it until I saw her in the cast list. Yeah, is Tracy
yeah.
Ullman.
I would have never guessed it. I mean, she's so good at like wearing makeup and not
Yeah.
looking like herself. And she fooled me once again, apparently. I love Tracy Ullman. I didn't even realize that was her.
Yeah, I know. It was a really cool, like there's a lot of cool little Easter eggs. We're probably missing people that we would probably recognize in the background that was like character A and B for a second. But
Well, and
yeah,
there's
but she
probably
played
people who
Vera.
are like really, there's probably people who are like super important if you know the Broadway show or something. Like Kevin Chamberlain plays Sheldon Saperstein, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. Probably somebody is just flipping their wig over, oh my God, Kevin Chamberlain's in the movie. Ah!
Yeah. So what did you think about Emma asking Barry to go to prom, and then next thing you know, they have a prom and she doesn't go Barry. She's with her girlfriend. It really wasn't addressed, even though she did do a first dance with him, which was sweet.
Yeah.
She said, I want you to be my date. It just feels right. He had a flashback of young Barry and his crush. I mean, they had a whole musical number about it. And then it was like, that's all you get.
I think what should have happened there is that they should have gone together, and then instead of Meryl Streep and Keegan, possibly maybe there should have been an additional character that maybe Barry had been interacting with throughout the movie, and that's where they split up. I mean, I understand it because it was more self-discovery for him, and it wasn't supposed to be about a romantic thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He was kind of left without a date. I mean, it's not the nicest thing to do, but I think since everybody was dancing in unison anyway, I think I think everybody
It's
was
true.
everybody's date.
Yep, everybody was choreographed that way.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I thought for a moment they were going to do a Barry like and Trent thing, kind of,
Yeah.
because they were the two. But then I thought that would have been too obvious, and then, I don't know. I don't know how I would have felt about that. I would have been on the
I think they would have had to do some serious. They would have had to make that a thing. It couldn't have happened like just happened at the end. I would have been very mad if that was the case.
I agree. Now, some things that they did do right, unlike Kerry Washington's Mrs. Green, who just all of a sudden stopped being homophobic. Vera's husband, or Barry's father, still, even now, was not really there yet, which is basically
and that was realistic.
It is.
I liked that. No, I dig that. I mean, I liked it obviously because it's realistic. I also don't like the stereotype that it's always the dad who can't get over things. The same way that I hate commercials that are like dads are always spilling and breaking things and mom has to clean it up. It's like, those get a little redundant and old. But the stereotype right now is that a mom would be more accepting of that sort of thing than a dad. And I think it would have been entertaining, or not entertaining, it would have been refreshing to have it be the dad show up and be like, oh, actually, your mom just isn't there yet. That
Yeah.
happens way less frequently. I can't name one TV show or movie where the mom was not on board. Like,
Yeah, and it's sad too because like actually in my own personal life, with my parents were interracial marriage, black father, European mother, and they got married in the 60s. So that should tell you something. So my
right.
parents didn't really care about my sexual preference, but my spouse's parents are Korean. And so both of them have
Mm,
issues with our marriage. Even though now they're trying to be accepting, it's more of a distance thing. So as long as we're
yeah.
not in the person, then it's accepted. But the moment we're all in the same room or house, we're not. So essentially it's not accepted. So, but I honestly, I like what you're saying because I really feel like my mother-in-law has the bigger problem than my father-in-law does.
Yeah.
He's been kind of straight about how he's having problems accepting it, blah, 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 blah. She was the one that was on board with us until we were in her face. And then that's when the real drama came out. So
Yeah.
a lot of that does not translate to television or movies. So you're absolutely right. Because normally the
Well, I
mother,
mean,
I'll talk to the dad. Don't worry. We'll
yeah.
work this
Well,
out.
even in my own life, right? My son is trans, and
My
told his
spouse is
mom,
too. That's awesome.
yeah, told his mom months before he ever told me. And when he told me, he was just like, I just didn't know how you were going to react. And I'm like, you do you. I don't care. Like why would you think I would have any other reaction than you do you? Like that's how I've
Yeah.
always been with you your entire life. So why would I'm going to get all angry all of a sudden. I'm not an angry dude just in general, so it
But
just
it's
seems
that it's
weird because
society puts that out there. It's a
that's the
perception.
idea,
Yeah, you
right?
watch all
So
these movies like you were saying, and I'm sure that's probably where
So as a
they got that.
father, I would have liked to have seen that. And that's again, like if you're not a father, you probably would have been like, hey, that scene was great and I have no issues with it. But like me, I'm like, no, it should be the dad who's in it. Come on.
Well, and to add on to that, my daughter is dating a girl, and she didn't tell me, and I'm in an LGBT marriage, and I'm like, yeah, what did you think I was going to say? She's like, I just wanted to make sure you were okay with it. I'm like, hello. So yeah, there is something, there
Yeah.
is something
It
ingrained
just
in
doesn't
them.
make it rationale of they're children. They don't know anything.
Yeah, they don't know.
Uh,
They don't know. um I love how everybody, like at the end, everybody got kind of what they wanted. Trent became the drama teacher because they kept stressing that the school did not have a theater department, so Trent became the
yes.
theater teacher.
I knew
Barry got
one
his
of them was
mom.
going to. I knew one
Yeah,
of them was going to. I didn't know who was going to be, but I knew one of them was going to.
yeah, and then Barry got his mother back.
Hmm.
Then we had Angie finally got the call to go on as, I think she was going on as
Yep.
Roxy. And then of course Dee Dee got with Principal Tom Hawkins. Now I don't know what this means for them. I don't know, because he's very happy being just a principal in
Yep.
Indiana, and she's not going to give up Broadway. She's not.
Well, and what I'll say too is that I think her storyline was not necessarily getting with him. Her storyline was getting over her narcissism.
Yeah.
So, and
And
even more
we
so,
did
like,
also learn a little bit about her husband, her previous spouse, who she did 15 years of marriage to, who was basically with her for her money. So I
true,
think her
true.
narcissism at that point was all she had, because she said she was
Yeah.
from a small town too. So she
But
built
of
herself
course,
up,
like,
and yeah.
if you think about it, though, I'm sure that a lot of people would be like, so you're with a younger dude who doesn't have any money because he's a principal and they don't get paid all that much. So you sure he's not in it for the money? Hmm.
Yeah, but then again, if he's got money to fly out to Broadway, we don't know what he has. He could have family money. We have
Yeah,
no idea.
maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but I
No,
do see that though. I do see that that would be the stereotype.
but yes, but I think the storyline of the narcissism, I think was largely her, and then Barry was that and the gay thing, but hers was more of the narcissism and Keegan. So I think they both got over the narcissism. But I wish, honestly, it's weird because I am not a big fan of the romantic connection as your storyline unless it's a romantic movie. Like if it's a romance movie, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like James was like self-discovery and narcissism. Even Angie's was like, I need that job. I need to feel fulfilled as a chorus. I need to like be recognized for how great I am. And it's just like, Dee Dee's was, I have a boyfriend now. And it's just like, oh.
Well, and we can both say that Dee Dee was the largest narcissist out of the entire group.
Yeah.
Not to mention, she really didn't 100% get over her narcissism, because even when she gave up her house in the Hamptons and they go do the prom, she reluctantly gave the credit card up to pay for stuff. And then even at the prom, she was like, you guys really pulled us together. She's like, yes, we did. I'm like, that's more. It was still, I did this without, actually asking for anything in return. I'm amazing. That's literally so it's not gone. She's just learning to taper it slowly down.
I felt for her though. I so felt for her, the fact that she bit the bullet and she called her ex, and then all of that was thrown out of the window. And I'm like, that is probably the hardest lesson that she could have ever learned, was to have to swallow her pride and do something for the betterment of somebody else, doing it completely self-sacrificing on her end. And then it is not acknowledged. No one cares that you just did that thing.
And I think she would have learned that. Don't you think she should have learned it with her previous marriage? Because he got half of her money, even though he wasn't working forever. He finally got a comedy show after they got divorced. So that's how I heard it. And then she still had to give him half the money, half the property. And she supported him for all of these years and got nothing out of it. And he was cheating on her the entire time, saying they mean nothing. This one means nothing. That you think that would have humbled her a little bit, going. I think
it's one or the other. It either would have humbled her, or it would have sent her into I'm the only one who can count on me. Like, bam, like just made her completely, like it could have just bumped the narcissism up even higher, because not only is she amazing, but she's the only one who cares about her. So I could see that angle as well. So I didn't have any issue with like the characterization of the character itself, but like, when she was just like, yeah, I just gave up my house so that you can be on TV. Yeah, I'm not going to do TV. Instead, I need your credit card so you can just pay for the whole thing. I would have been like, bitch, what the?
Yeah.
No, excuse me. No, I have my limits here. Like,
well, and this will teach her to always ask before she does things. Like if she had
there is that too.
And say, you're going to be on TV with millions of people watching you. No, I'm just going to do it on the internet. I'm like, cool. I'll keep my Hampton house then.
Exactly. Checking. You always have to check first, and be like,
always ask before you do these selfless acts. That's the one thing Principal Tom did not teach her. But that's something a
lot of people don't know. Like there's a whole lot of like, because my wife works for like she works for in a domestic abuse shelter, and there are like committees, tons of people who are like, this is what they need, we're going to supply this and all that stuff. And my wife is the one to go to those appointments and those meetings and be like, at any point, are we going to ask them what they need? Is that what are we ever going to do that? Or are we just going to assume everything and make entire government programs off of what we think they need?
This is true. This happens across the board. Is her job a nonprofit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I work in nonprofit too as my day job. And I know one year we gave food to a lot of people that needed for the holidays, that needed, to be able to celebrate with their families that had nothing. And they gave them, I think, passed out frozen chickens, frozen turkeys, and hens, and all of this frozen foods that had to be heated up, but they didn't have any money, so they didn't have electricity. Right. So they had all of this food donated and could do absolutely nothing with it. No one asked them if they would be capable of cooking any of it. Right. And so that's when they started going with gift cards and, to stores and things so they can go buy. And they would see a lot of them are buying jugs of water, like big jugs of water and ramen, because you can always put ramen in a cup without even having to heat it up. It's sad, but I mean, it's what they did. And so, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, ask, because I know the feeling and what you want to do, the sentiment is there. But if it's not going to benefit somebody's life, or, and it's not something that they want, then it doesn't really.
Well, because what ends up happening is they'll be like, oh, well, we gave you all this stuff. Why aren't you grateful for it? And it's just like, because that's not what I needed. You know,
And it makes you seem like they're being ungrateful, but it's actually because no, they
right.
just can't use it. And they
It's not. That's not
yeah.
what they need right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree with that. Um, but yeah, like I said, I like how they tried to tie up everybody's kind of
Yeah.
stories at the end. We don't know what happens after prom. We just know, except for we do know that Trent's going to be the drama teacher. I don't.
Right.
I guess being on Broadway gives you teaching credentials. So like, I don't know how that works. So I thought you actually
Well,
had
I
to have
mean,
a
I
little bit
think that
more.
you can. I mean, you can be like a lesser. You can be like a lesser teacher. You just have to go like you have to go get a certificate or
Yeah, he
something.
needs to be certified though. I
Yeah,
thought,
he just needs a
but
certificate.
they
Yeah,
haven't told
I mean,
him
it's a
that yet. Unless
movie.
maybe their town of Indiana, it may be different. So maybe
Hey,
that's
you're right. We
whatever the
don't live in
board says is
Indiana.
fine. But but no, I did like how, and I loved how the school bullies, Kevin, Shelby, Kaylee, Nick, I can't believe I have their names without looking at it. It's funny. All of them came in and they like apologized for being butts to Emma, all based on the Love Thy Neighbor song. Like,
Exactly.
that was pretty cool. So I love that tie-ins. And again, I am very impressed with the fact that everybody knows every dance routine. Even the three bullies in the office that were waiting for the principal when
Yeah.
Dee Dee was singing, they actually acted out what the musical number was on stage when she did it before on Broadway. The boys were like running around, walking around the table, holding up. I'm like, everybody knew what they were doing. So it's a musical, though. You suspend your disbelief. You do. Though sometimes, do I
Yeah.
wish that
Well,
that happened in real life? Yes.
I don't think that we've addressed though that Emma, Joe Ellen Pellman, like I was watching it the whole time and I'm like, do I know her from somewhere? And I looked her up and I'm like, no, she's been in almost nothing. And then I'm just like, oh, she looks crazy like Elizabeth Moss. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
got it. Okay. That's who in my brain, I'm translating her facial features as Elizabeth Moss from Handmaid's Tale, Invisible Man.
Oh, I see it. She does look like her from
Oh my
Handmaid's
gosh.
Tale.
She looks
Huh.
like, well, and the internet says that she looks like Drew Barrymore. And I'm like, I guess I can kind of see that. But to my eye, it's more Elizabeth Moss than anything. But I was watching it the whole time. Like it was, I couldn't not think of Elizabeth Moss while I was watching her performance, but I think she did a great job.
Yeah.
And I think that I think all of the fanfare and all of the attention that she's getting is well deserved.
Yeah.
She's great singing voice. She acted the hell out of that role. I think that she did a great job.
Well, Netflix has been hitting a lot of home runs on some newcomers on different shows that they put out
Yeah.
recently. So I do like that they didn't just go with somebody who was well known, especially when you have all these powerhouses coming in the other roles. You want somebody that kind
Yeah.
of stand out. But I liked Emma's character a lot. I loved a lot of the songs that she was singing. I liked her point of view. I like how she was kind of desensitized to the craziness, because even though all this really horrible stuff was being said, she didn't really get very, very emotional about it
Yeah.
until she broke up with her girlfriend. And then that's when everything got really real. And especially when they had the secret prom, when they decided to have a second prom that everybody goes to, and then one just for her that nobody showed up to, which was horrible and is a
That was the
nightmare.
worst.
That was probably the worst scene in that entire
Well, and
movie.
that's why I was saying, like, I just didn't understand why at the end everybody was like, it was cool. Like we're cool with everybody now because we ended up having our own prom that we paid for ourselves and organized and everything. And it's just like that does not absolve the other people of anything. Like
I agree with that. And then also it got me thinking too, it wasn't just the parents, because PTA is parent teacher,
yeah,
association. So that means there were teachers doing it. Because that, to me,
I
I
didn't
mean,
even
you
think
have to
about
go to
that. You're
school.
right.
Yeah, you have to literally walk into that school, the next
Yeah.
day with all these people that thought that you were such a
Wow.
horrible human being for being gay that they paid for another prom and didn't invite you to, and everybody lied to you about it. Everyone in the school lied to you about it. That's
Wow.
crazy. And the
Yeah,
principal wasn't
and
even
how
there.
could the principal miss everything? Like, I mean, he would have had to sign a bunch of papers and like all kinds of stuff. Like, there would have been a lot that you would have had to do to get it past the principal who runs the entire school that it's not actually happening. But,
Yeah.
you know,
I think maybe
maybe
because
we
they
can
booked it
say
at the
that.
lodge, maybe because it was a third party venue, maybe they didn't have to, it was sponsored by, but you would think being sponsored by the PTA would still have to be
Right.
something they would at least talk to the principal about.
Well, it was less
But
that he would have known about the third party site. Like, I get that maybe he wouldn't have known about that, but if they would have brought him the papers and all that stuff that he needed to sign to have it on school and been like, that's weird. They didn't even hire a DJ. Like, there was no one there. It was an empty place. Like, they
Well,
didn't
what
hire a
got
DJ.
me is they actually managed to half-ass decorate. Like they put
Right.
like decorations that are probably stuff they used from previous events, like pep rallies and things, and just threw streamers around and like empty tables, a few not even a lot of tables, but empty
Right.
tables.
So they didn't rent the chairs and tables that they would have needed. They didn't spend the budget on the decorations that they would have done. They didn't hire the DJ. That, like, there's so many things. There was no income from tickets sold, because you don't just throw it. You have to buy prom tickets, and that gets reimbursed. So no tickets sold. So there would have had to have been a ton of things that he just didn't pay attention to not know that this prom was not going to be on the up and up. And we could always blame it on the fact that maybe Dee was drawing his attention away from his duties. Like, maybe that's what was happening. But, again, some of these things can be kind of looked over because it's supposed to be kind of a movie. It's a work of fiction. You're not supposed to nitpick and whatnot. But if this was the real world, he would have known that prom was not on the up and up.
I agree with that. And also to add on to that, as parents, we would have been very sad individuals, because how many proms did these people have? And we had to buy all these multiple outfits and rent these limos multiple times. Like, how much money do you think I have?
Well, remember, every parent in Indiana doesn't like gay people. Every single one of them.
Everyone I've
learned. That's what I've learned. Grandparents, they love them. They love gay people. Grandparents love them. Parents hate them.
Now, if you are from Indiana and watching this and you are a parent, we're not talking about you. Like, we're talking about the prom people. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this musical. I thought it was very well done. I would love to compare it to the Broadway edition. I would love to see what the differences are, because I'm sure there are. Because you can get away with a lot more in theater than you can in a movie. Yeah. So I would love to see what was cut, or what was added or adapted. So I would love to see that. But yeah, I mean, I like this movie. What about you? What's your overall opinion?
Dug it a lot. Again, I watched every season of Glee, even after everyone else stopped watching. So it was right up my alley. I watched it all. And so it had that same feel, that same very campiness, but very happy, but also dealing with very serious things. So I dug it a lot. I still think that there were some unanswered questions at the end. I think some character arcs were resolved a little too quickly. And also some of the songs were highly, highly reminiscent of other popular songs. But on the whole, I enjoyed it. And again, I literally watched it by accident, and I'm very happy that I ended up watching it.
Happy accidents are fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So awesome, guys. So that is our review of Prom, but we would love to know what you think. So please leave a comment below and let us know. Plus, again, if you have not subscribed to the Turnout, I will put the link below in the description. So please subscribe, be kind. And you will be seeing the Turnout on ATN again, because Charm season's coming back in January. We're going to have lots to talk about.
Can't wait. Maria's one of my favorites when it comes to the Charmed reviews, because she sees things through a different lens than I do. And that's the good part about any fandom, is that we can watch the same thing and be like, I got something completely different than what you got. And that's the variety of different ideas. That's a good thing.
Yep, that is. And we're going to use those different lenses to dissect Charmed. I might even start drinking. But yeah, guys, we love you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not to my channel. And until next time, guys, I cannot wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it. But hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.